To our nation's capital now, where a bill known as the HALT Fentanyl Act appears poised to pass Congress and be sent to the president's desk. The bill would permanently list fentanyl analogs, or copycat drugs, often sold by traffickers, as Schedule I controlled substances. That's the designation for the most dangerous drugs. Those drugs had already been temporarily placed on the list in 2018, but that was set to expire at the end of this month. Now, drugs on that Schedule I list mandate severe prison sentences, and according to the Congressional Budget Office, this bill would lead to an increase in criminal convictions for selling fentanyl-related substances. Right now, under Schedule I, if someone is caught trafficking 10 grams of a fentanyl analog, they would receive a minimum prison sentence of 5 years. Someone caught with 100 grams of the same drug would get a minimum of 10 years. But the HALT Fentanyl Act would lower those thresholds. Even a trace amount of fentanyl analog within a 10-gram sample would trigger the 5-year mandatory minimum sentence. That's according to the New York Times. Now, some have criticized the broad wording of the bill, alleging it will block research into some of these fentanyl analogs. Nonetheless, the bill passed the Senate on Friday on an 84-16 vote. All of the no votes came from Democrats, and now it heads to the House, where a similar version of the bill already passed with significant bipartisan support. The next bill will be for the House to vote on, the updated Senate bill, and if it passes there, it heads to President Trump. And considering the fentanyl crisis here in Oregon, you might be thinking that our congressional delegation would be thrilled with a fentanyl crackdown. Well, think again. Both Senators Ron Wyden and Jeff Merkley voted against the HALT Fentanyl Act. And when it comes to similar bills in the House that was voted on early last month, 4 of our 6 representatives voted yes, with Reps Bonamici and Dexter voting no. We gave each of the no voting members of Congress a day and a half to send us a statement on why they voted no, and 3 of the 4 answered us. Representative Bonamici did not. Senator Wyden noted the bill does nothing to address root causes of addiction and wrote that war on drugs approach of just criminalizing addiction with mandatory one-size-fits-all minimum sentences failed for decades to reduce drug use. Reusing a scheme that's proven itself outdated would be like displaying a Model T at a new car show. His colleague in the Senate, Jeff Merkley, told us to tackle the flow of fentanyl in our communities, we need effective solutions, and the HALT Fentanyl Act falls woefully short of that goal. I voted against this bill because it perpetuates many of the harms of the war on drugs by imposing mandatory minimums and ignores public health tools to address this crisis. And finally, from Rep. Dexter, addiction is a public health crisis, not a crime to be punished. We need solutions that treat it as such. I voted against the HALT Fentanyl Act because it fails to address the root causes of this epidemic, instead hampering our ability to advance new medical treatments for addiction and advancing the flawed logic that we can incarcerate our way out of this crisis. Now, the war on drugs mentioned by Senator Wyden is blamed for sending millions of people addicted to drugs to jail, particularly Black Americans. According to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, in 2023, the average prison sentence for someone convicted of trafficking fentanyl-related drugs was over 7 years. Nearly 60% of those convicted were Black, 23% were Hispanic, and 16% were white. Again, the HALT Fentanyl Act appears poised to pass the House. The first vote on a very similar bill was 312 to 108. If passed, it heads to President Trump, who has promised to crack down on fentanyl. So it feels like a pretty safe bet that he would sign it into law.